film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths, in particular Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother Franklin. It is all the more tragic in that they were young, but had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, so we're doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as you heard. By the way, for those who don't know the voice of the intro, that is John Larroquette from Night Court, Dan. So it's a little trivia there for you. So, like I said, we're going to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series here. I don't think I posted that, so I was doing the whole series, but lo and behold, we are. I got my notes here, so Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974, based on the infamous serial killer Ed Gein. They only use some of the facts for the actual movie. You know, there's a few things that they Hollywoodized, but you know, Ed Gein was also responsible for the Silence of the Lambs. So it's a little. Ed Gein had a couple of different, you know, Norman Bates was supposedly based after Ed Gein also. So let's go into the movie now. So 1974 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, starring Marilyn Burns, who I used to have a big crush on for years. You know, when I was a teenager, watching this for the first time. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre was one of those first movies that Halloween and Carrie were kind of like the first movies that kind of got introduced to the world of horror. So, and unlike, you know, Carrie and Halloween, you know, like I said, this was based on something true, and so that gave it the more shock value. That even though, like I said, all the facts aren't the same, the fact that something similar to this happened, like, you know, sends a shiver down your spine. You know, so. You know, it follows the family of the Sawyers, although we didn't find out their name right away. But the Sawyers was the cook, played by Jim Saito, who's terrific, by the way. Ed Neal, who played the hitchhiker. By the way, I just got to meet Ed Neal, so it was pretty awesome. Told him that he was the first person to scare the shit out of me. Yeah, ironically, it was him, not Leatherface, that scared. Because how zany the hitchhiker was in that movie. And then, of course, the late, great Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface. And the scene that always sticks out to me in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the scene when Pam, played by Terry McMinn, walks in and is looking for, you know, her boyfriend, and walks into the room, and she trips over. You know, there's a whole bunch of shit laying in the room. She trips down and she looks up, and she's in the infamous room where you see skeletons, bones, a bench made out of human remains, and it's explained that even though it looks like she's there for a while, now it's supposed to be like a slow motion thing where she's trying to take it all in, and that scene just still gives me chills every single time I see that. And then, of course, the scene when she tries to get away and Leatherface chases her into the sunlight and grabs her, and you know, brings her back in. She's kicking and screaming. She puts her on the big meat hook. I mean, like, movies just weren't doing that stuff back then. So, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was basically setting the standard for what would become the serial killer movies, really. And like I said, Jim Saito plays he plays the cook. That's his name in the movie, the cook. And you're just a cook. Anyways, sorry, I had to do a line. Um, so like you don't actually, okay, spoiler alert, you don't actually see it coming when he's actually involved in the whole thing. You think he's just trying to be the guy trying to warn them not to go to the house. And Ed Ed Neal, his introductory scene is legendary. You know, obviously I said he plays a hitchhiker. You know, at first they were like, "Ooh, we shouldn't pick him up." They pick him up, and of course, that sets the standard for you should never pick up hitchhikers because he's the ultimate scary hitchhiker in any movie I've ever seen. You know, there's been a movie called The Hitcher, and he doesn't come close to Ed Neal. And So it sets up for the five kids who are going to a property left to them. It was their daddy's property. And like I said, they get warned not to go there. And they all start breaking off in groups. And little by little, they all start disappearing. So, you know, finally it's just Sally and her brother Franklin, and you know that they're wondering where everybody is. And the scene with Franklin getting butchered because you know Franklin's in a wheelchair, and you know I know a lot of people say that he's an annoying character, but you know that scene right there is just the most disturbing scene. And then the chase scene with Sally and Leatherface. For a big boy, Leatherface can run. And then of course they set up with her going to the guy at the gas station who's the cook and thinking she's safe now, and you know he ends up you know taking her to the house, and you know the madness begins. And the scenes with Marilyn Burns when she starts to lose it, the eyes, she has the most believable scary eyes that I've ever seen in any movie. You could see like she really put a lot of work into this. She's terrified, and just it sets up a great scene with her sitting with the family and introducing us to Grandpa. And by the way, Grandpa is like 107 years old. So, and played by the great John Dugan, who I got to meet also. And the scenes with John Dugan trying to hit her with the hammer, classic. Anyways, so you know, if you haven't seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I don't know where you've been. I mean, you're either A, not a horror fan, or B, just been hiding under a rock somewhere. So just go see it. I mean, definitely 5 stars. So we're going to move along to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And it's completely different from Texas Chainsaw 1. It's more campy. It has some laughs. It has some great humor scenes with the cook now being called Drayton Sawyer. And Drayton Sawyer's in Dallas. You know, they're based in Texas, obviously. And he's winning a cooking challenge for his chili, and it's all in the meat. Don't skimp on the meat. That's what he says. Don't skimp on it. And people don't realize, but the meat that they're eating is actually human remains. So I guess that's the key to making good chili. Anyways, so basically starts up with these 2 kids going to the Texas OU weekend, and they call a DJ they've been listening to, Stretch, played by the amazing, gorgeous, beautiful Caroline Williams. And Caroline is the head DJ of Keokla Red River Rock and Roll Request Line. Yes, I remember that line. And you know, she's playing some cool music, so there's 2 guys taking it upon themselves to kind of harass her a little bit. And so they call her back, and earlier on they had pissed off this farming truck, and they didn't realize the farming truck was actually Leatherface and Chop Top, who's now played by Chop Top is supposedly the brother of a hitchhiker, and he is played by the great Bill Moseley, which I got to meet. And I got to meet Bill Johnson, who was Leatherface in this one. And so later on, Chop Top and Leatherface decided to get revenge and play a little bit of chicken on a bridge. And of course, that doesn't end up good for these two guys going to the Texas OU weekend. Buzz and Rick the Brick, and they end up dying. And we're introduced to Dennis Hopper, who plays the sheriff. And he's like a lawman. He's actually the uncle to Franklin, who's been trying to find these killers for years, and he's convinced that they're here. So he's looking for anyone to give him help. Well, after these two kids get butchered on the highway, they actually were on the phone with Stretch at the time, and so she recorded the whole thing. And she goes to Dennis Hopper to try to get some to help him along, and he says he doesn't want help, blah blah blah. But also listening to the radio was Chop Top and Leatherface, and because Chop Top music is my life. Thank you for signing my autograph. That, by the way. And so they pay Stretch a visit at the Keokla Red River Rock and Roll, and they end up killing her sidekick LG, and she's convinced that she can't let them go because she promised to help bring these killers to justice. So she follows them, and they end up they have like this old like amusement park that's closed down as their home now, and she kind of gets too close for comfort and ends up falling in. So now it's up to the Dennis Hopper to get in there and help her after acquiring some nice chainsaws of his own, because he's bringing them to justice, as I said. And I love his little, like when he goes through, he's on a rampage. He's completely crazed out, over the top Dennis Hopper. And so he's when he finally gets to like the inner circle where they all hide, you hear him in the background saying, "Bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, we will come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves." So this is like his little like fight song, I guess. So he ends up having a one-on-one with Leatherface, and a chainsaw, nice, awesome chainsaw battle, by the way. And Caroline Williams Stretch takes on Chop Top in an epic. I mean, it's one of the best horror chase scenes. And so I can't give any more out. But anyways, I already gave it all out. So the ending scene is awesome for Caroline Williams fans. Definitely 5 stars on this one. So that brings us to Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. So supposedly 3 was a updated version of the original, and Leatherface has a bigger family this time, and Leatherface is played by I'm going to get this pronunciation wrong, R.A. Mihalinoff. I hope I got that right. And the good guys are Kate Hodge and William Butler. William Butler and Jennifer Banco plays Leatherface's daughter, I'm guessing. It's like Leatherface lets her sit on his lap and stuff like that, and tells her that she can be not tells her, but like nods when his mother says to be a good boy, and so good girl, good boy. Anyways, so I'm assuming, and they talk about how Leatherface likes to use those private parts really good, so that's kind of twisted. And the family is played by Viggo Mortensen, who is a terrific actor, and Joe Unger, who plays the older brother. And Tom Everett, who plays Alfredo, who Alfredo is kind of like a newer version of the hitchhiker from the original. And actually, I was talking to Ed Neal about Tom Everett's role and how like, the whole taking of the picture and you can pay me now was kind of stolen from the hitchhiker. So, and also the amazing, legendary Ken Foree is in it. Ken Foree plays like a weekend warrior who happens to get involved in helping the two people try to get them to safety away from this family. So, and then, like I said, Jennifer Banko's in it, and Jennifer Banko has to be the most awesome, privileged little girl in horror history because she plays in this movie, and she also plays in Friday the 13th Part 7 as the young version of Lara Park Lincoln's character. So she's really lucked out. And then obviously she got 13 Fanboy coming up, but I'll talk about 13 Fanboy on another podcast. And this one, like I said, it's kind of like a crafted remake of the original, and directed by Jeff Burr. So I've talked to Jeff Burr a couple of times, and he's very happy with this film, and I love this film as well. It has a cool little soundtrack to it, and it has a little bit of scares and a little bit of bother, but it's not a lot of either or. So I was out of a 5 stars. I give this like a 4.5 stars, but it's still highly recommended. So let's jump to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4, the wicked stepchild of the series. And although that's highly debated, we'll talk about the 2017 Leatherface later. Texas Chainsaw 4 is called The Next Generation. Now, this one is a little bit interesting. Robert Jacks plays Leatherface in this, and he's the only basically reoccurring character in all 4 movies. Also starring Renee Zellweger from Jerry Maguire, and Matthew McConaughey is in this. Also Tiana Perensky is in this. So this one's about a family, same family, but I don't think they call themselves the Sawyers in this one. Could be wrong. Led by Vilmer, who's played by Matthew McConaughey. And Vilmer, I will say this, Matthew McConaughey is so over the top, it's awesome. I mean, his performance alone is actually just worth the watch. But I can't say much else is. But just watching him is a joy. And it actually talks about basically an experiment in fear. And what I mean by that is it's almost like that the family is run by the government, which is kind of interesting. And they try to strike fear into people. It's almost like they don't want to really kill you. It's more like they just want to frighten you. And when the experiment goes wrong, you actually see a government official come in and basically put a halt to it. And it's a weird movie, but it's still part of the series. I can't give it more than I'll give it a 2.5 stars just for Matthew McConaughey's role alone. Gets 2 stars. So, but I thought the angle on the government being involved is interesting. So 2.5 stars, I said. So that brings us to Texas Chainsaw, the remake. Now, the remake, I am not a fan of the man who plays Andrew Berinsky, but I'm not going to bash him live. So if you want to if you know me, message me about my thoughts on Andrew Berinsky. And if you're watching, I'm sorry, I can't endorse you. It's starring Jessica Biel. Terrific. She's terrific in this movie. R. Lee Ermey. R. Lee Ermey from what's that movie now? God, I'm drawing a blank. I hate when that happens. Anyways, Full Metal Jacket. He was in Full Metal Jacket, and he plays Sheriff Hoyt in this one, and terrific. I mean, he might be the best actor in the whole series. I mean, he's believable and he's over the top and he's outright scary. Um, I definitely wouldn't want a sheriff in my town like that. So this one is, like I said, it's a complete remake of the original, and they have the house and they have the whole pretty much a lot of the settings down. And I will say Brinsky is a pretty good Leatherface. I will say that. I'm just questioning his character. Out of a 5 stars, I will give this about a 3.5. Now we go to Texas Chainsaw, the beginning. Same Leatherface, Andrew Barinsky, same sheriff, but this is actually like a prequel to the remake that they just did. And so their last name is actually Hewitt in this one. It's not Sawyer. And it's just basically a setup of how Leatherface became Leatherface. You see Leatherface as a baby, and they do the whole setup of like his upbringing, and so. But when they get into it, he's once again, it's a excellent movie. I think it was actually better than the remake, so I'll give this one a 4 stars. Now we go to Texas Chainsaw 3D. And 3D has a lot of lovers and a lot of haters. And the haters aren't really hating the movie, they're hating the timeline. But you'll have to get into the movie to see that. Anyways, it shows this is supposed to be a direct sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And when they come to get Leatherface after what he's done. And, so now the family, the Sawyer family, huddles around Leatherface to try to protect him. And you see some cameos from Bill Moseley. You see Marilyn Burns. You see Gunnar Hansen. You see John Dugan. So it was like a great, basically a great tribute to have those guys back. But Bill Moseley is actually playing Drayton Sawyer this time because of the late great Jim Saito has passed away. And quick little story. Bill Moseley. I asked this question to him when I met him and then they had the panel. My question was, how did it feel to play the role of Drayton Sawyer, knowing that he was a big fan of Jim Saito? And he gave a great answer. He said he took it because he didn't want any actor taking it and butchering the role. He had great respect for Jim Saito. He was like a mentor, and he wanted to pay tribute to Jim Saito by taking the role on. And they couldn't have picked a better person. I mean, it's brief, but he has that Jim Saito thing to him, and he actually explained how to walk like Jim Saito and everything. So it was funny. But yeah, I thought that was a great answer and a great tribute to the late great Jim Saito to take the role. Leatherface is now played by Dan Yeager, who is a fantastic Leatherface. He might be top 2. Gunnar will always be the king. I mean, I think Dan will tell you that himself. But Dan Yeager played this role to the bit. I mean, he actually said that he studied Gunnar Hansen. He goes, I actually straight out took a lot of stuff from Gunnar and used it. So, and also starring Alexandria. I'm gonna get this. Danielle. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And she's smoking in this movie, by the way. But she plays the next of kin of Verna Sawyer, and inherits the Sawyer mansion, the Sawyer estate. But she doesn't know that there's a Sawyer still living there. Leatherface is still living there. So she actually learns about her heritage and she ends up learning about who lives there, and it's a good little twist ending. You know, you think she's gonna want to run away, and she doesn't. So, and it's a good revenge story too about how the police gunned down the whole Sawyer family, and that when she finds this out, she wants revenge basically for what happened to her family. And it's the last movie that Marilyn Burns did, so it's a great little tribute to her too. And I missed her because I used to talk to Marilyn on Facebook, and she always had time, and she never really thought that she was that big of a star, but she really was to a lot of us horror fans. So it was good to see her in one last movie. So out of 5 stars, I'm going to give that another 4 stars. Um, the 4 stars are definitely for the performances. It's definitely by Leatherface, Dan Yeager. Alexandria was great, and Scott Eastwood is in this, by the way. The last name might ring a bell. He is the son of Clint Eastwood, so it was a good little start for him. And so 4 stars. Finally, here's the debatable one. Which is the Wicked Step? Which is the Wicked Step Kid? The Texas Chainsaw 4 or Leatherface 2017? That's going to be up for debate here. So, Leatherface 2017 was a lot different than I was envisioning. I thought it was actually going to be a Leatherface movie, but it's actually about. It's once again it's like a prequel of Leatherface, and you're actually given like 3 options on who Leatherface is through the whole movie because it takes place in kind of a boys' correction home, and you have 3 kids who kind of could fit the profile, but you're completely shocked when you find out who it is. So I will save that one. But this one stars Stephen Dorff, Lily Taylor, and Sam Strike. Lily Taylor is the only name of familiar, and well, Stephen Dorff too. But Lily Taylor has become really popular lately. Member from The Conjuring. So, but it follows the story of, like I said, a boys correction home, and how they're planning an escape, and one of them has a kind of like a background that he doesn't really know about. So when you find out what it is, it's actually the whole Sawyer family, and they actually do mention the name Berna and stuff like that. So, but it's actually not a direct sequel or reboot or anything to the series. It's kind of its own standalone movie, and there's rumors. I will give this probably 2 stars. And yeah, 2 stars. It was going to get 1 until about the last hour, and it really picks up the last hour, but it's a little too late, I think, for me. So this one is, I will say, this is my Wicked Stepchild of the series. And there's rumors of a new movie coming out in 2020 or 2021, but those are unconfirmed right now. So I don't know if it's a reboot, a sequel, another standalone. But besides that, I mean, we've covered the whole series. So tell me what your choices are. What do you guys rate your Texas Chainsaws at? My favorite, of course, the original. Nothing can beat the original. And of course, my favorite actress in the movie is part 2, Caroline Williams. Even though I love Marilyn Burns, Caroline has always been, sweet on me. Just kidding, Caroline. And my favorite actor in the series. Wow, this one's a tough one. I will have to say Bill Moseley. I love Bill Moseley in this. And I'm talking Bill Moseley as Chop Chop. Don't mind me, I'm just looking up something. And anyways, I'm getting off course here. So, like I said, tell me your ratings from best to worst, and leave it below. Please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, because I'll find out. I will find out if you haven't subscribed. I'll haunt you when I'm dead. So this is Rob Mahoney once again, and this is my Texas Chainsaw, my horror life.